What's up, everybody? Welcome back to a brand spanking new episode of Hoops All In. If you guys are new, don't forget to follow us on our social media platforms at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. And don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel at Hoops All In. Don't forget to subscribe to our personal YouTube channels, especially Keith at Keith HAI and Werls TV. Share the video with your friends, family, loved ones. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. And yeah, Keith, man, again, we had a whole bunch of free agency stuff that happened in the NBA. It was a frenzy. So we're going to
Mhm.
talk about the winners and losers of the 2025 NBA offseason free agency. So let's get it started.
Yeah. Free agency, technically all the deals become official in a few hours.
Mm-hmm.
It's about 2 p.m. on Sunday when we're recording this, but everything that we've seen through so far kind of right here. So the Atlanta Hawks, who they haven't re-signed anybody. They added Nikhil Alexander Walker, Luke Kennard, and Porzingis. And their departures are Clint Capella, Karis LeVert, Larry Nance, Georges Niang, and Terrence Mann. Of course, Porzingis was a part of the Celtic trade, while Luke Kennard and Nikhil Alexander Walker were signed for very good deals, I think, for their
Yes.
value.
Yes.
Um, honestly, right off the bat, we're starting with one of the biggest winners of free agency so far, without
Yeah.
a doubt.
Yeah, I think so too. Again, the Hawks, they added a good amount of depth, especially that, like you mentioned, that Nikhil Alexander signing. It was like what, a 4 year, 3 year, 60 something, a three
4 years,
year,
62.
4 years, yeah, $62 million deal, which was a very, very good contract, especially the year that he had last year with the Minnesota Timberwolves. Again, he could be a lockdown defender. He's a 3-and-D type of guy. So that was a big, big pickup for the Hawks. Play him alongside Jalen Johnson, and other guys at that position. I believe was it Jalen Johnson? Who else plays for the Hawks? I'm sorry, I'm blanking out.
Zachary Ricochet.
Yeah, Zachary,
Um,
yeah, Zachary Ricochet. Oh yeah, I got it. Jalen Johnson, Zachary Ricochet, Garson Matthews. They also got Dyson Daniels, who very good as well too. So yeah, they very, very deep at that 2-3 position.
yeah, for sure. Sorry. All right, here we go. So yeah, definitely one of the biggest winners for me so far.
Yeah, I'll give him like a B so far.
Okay. All
Yeah.
right. Boston Celtics. So they
Oof.
have not been able to re-sign anybody so far. They've added Georges Niang, part of the Porzingis trade, Luka Garza and Josh Minott, who were previously Minnesota Timberwolves, and then Anthony Simons, a part of the Drew Holiday trade. And the players leaving: Drew Holiday, Luke Cornett, Porzingis, and it appears like Al Horford will be added to that departure list very soon.
Sheesh.
Um, Boston Celtics fan, we went from starting off with one of the biggest winners of free agency to one of the biggest losers, I think.
Yeah.
Granted, even after they signed after they signed Garza and Minot, they are now back into the second apron. So they still need to trade, whether they do just reflip Anthony Simons or they departure on Sam Hauser or Derek White or something like that. They are not done. But yeah, I think that this front court, especially when you don't have Tatum there, your power forward, center, it's like it's really rough. I don't know how accurate this is about to be, but like, I mean, they've got these guys are rookies. These guys are young, like no centers here. You know, Porzingis isn't here anymore. What Xavier Tillman and Georges Niang are our front court. I don't like
Mm.
that. So this to me is one of the biggest losers of free agency so far.
Yeah, I would agree. Obviously, again, we knew that the Boston Celtics had to do this because they didn't want to pay the second apron luxury tax, which was over $500 million.
Hmm.
Maybe the only valuable player that you can move on who's still on a big deal is Derek Wright, but he gives you so much on the offensive defensive end. I mean, this year is going to be making $28 million, the following year, 30 million, and the following year after that, the 2027-2028 season, 32 and a half million. You can get a lot for him. You get young players, draft capital, go to a team that's contending now, and he'll fit right in. There's been some rumors about maybe Jalen Brown possibly getting traded because he's a $300 million man as well, going to be making well over $60 million a year. So
Mhm.
it was tough for the Boston Celtics, especially not having Jason Tatum all next year due to a torn Achilles. So I wouldn't say this is an F for the Boston Celtics because they knew that they had to do these, departures, especially even more so with your star not being able to play at all next year. So I would just say an A, not applicable for them, because they're retooling for next year. And if they, tank, they could possibly get a top 5 pick. Maybe they could get that AJ Dubai sign guy from BYU, who is a Boston kid.
Yeah.
Adam works his little magic behind the scenes in the NBA. So I wouldn't be surprised if that happens. Give the Celtics a first round draft pick, get him, and they'll be right back and running in 2020 and the 2027, 2026, 2027 NBA season. So yeah, I wouldn't give them a grade because they had to do these deals.
I will say, so some Celtics fans might need to close their ears for this. I'm all on trading Derek White right now.
Mm.
I mean, Derek White, we know what he did. He had some all-star buzz in that first year, 2 seed, like 2024. Granted, he wasn't gonna make it, but like he is one of
Mm.
the most valuable role players you can have. Two-way, been able to make his own shot, but he is about to be 32, I believe. By the time that we're probably contending again, he's going to be 33, 34. I don't want this to be a Drew Holiday situation where Drew Holiday is an older guy. Anthony Simons is a fine player, but Derek White's value is at an all-time high right now. And if we're not going to use him to the best of his ability, um I am fully on board for moving on from him if it is the right thing. I believe Brad Stevens or someone in the Celtics front office said that they would need a Mikal Bridges type offer, which makes sense because honestly I think he's better than Mikal Bridges, but like they're similar players. They play the same. We've seen, you know, a bunch of deals happen like that. I don't think you necessarily need 5 for him, but like 2 or 3 first round picks and a player that you're really proud of getting back. I mean, I would not be against moving on from Derek White, but
Well, I mean, in one part I do agree with you, but another part I don't because again, you mentioned like the Celtics, they need to go a little bit younger, especially trading away Holiday and Porzingis. You
mhm,
got a guy Anthony Simons who averaged about 19, almost 19 and a half points per game
correct.
last year, and he's on an expiring contract. He's going to be making $27 million this year, and then you can basically maybe sign him to a 4 year, 110, $107 million deal next year, a Miles Turner type deal because
Mhm,
he is worth that type of money and he's only 26 years old. He just turned 26
right.
last month. And
Yeah.
so again, another, 6'4" guard who was explosive, can attack the basket, could get some deflections, get some steals. I
Mhm,
think that I would possibly, if I were you, again, I can see your point about maybe moving on from Derek White, but he's so valuable. He brings a lot to that team. Veteran leadership. He's also Olympic gold medal winner, has a championship, played in the San Antonio Spurs offense. He is a pro's pro. I think that you hang on to them. Listen, I'm
mhm,
not trying to go on a rant, but these billionaire owners, their pockets are deep. I understand, paying $500 million not to be competitive is a waste of money, but you're going to be back the following year, the 2026 2027 season, once Tatum comes back and it's healthy. So I think you hold on to Derek White, have those billionaire players, have those billionaire owners, pay the luxury tax bill. You
mhm,
guys will be competitive next year. The NBA is going to give you a first round pick as long as you guys have less than, 40 wins. I think you'll be okay. I would hold on to Derek White
mhm.
and maybe try to re-sign Simons to a team-friendly 4 year, $100 million deal.
See, but my thing is though with that is we've got Payne Pritchard, who I would assume is starting. Because one, he's acclimated into the Celtics offense, and we're paying $100+ million for a bench player. That's not many bench players are. We just saw Ty Jerome who signed for less than $30 million over 3 years. He got like 9 mil a year. Granted, Naz Reid got like 120, but
Yeah.
Naz Reid might be the best bench player you can get in the NBA.
But here's the thing to that: not a lot of bench players can give the type of production Simons can, and Simons can be a starter.
Yeah.
Who else is on the Boston Celtics guys that you can say that can start at the one or the two positions? Especially again, Tatum is out, so you're gonna have to put him at the one. and he is a valuable guard who will get you 4 or 5 assists a night. And maybe he can learn the offense playing with a guy like a Tatum and a Jalen Brown. And you mentioned Peyton
Yeah.
Pritchard. You're gonna keep him at that 6 man role because he's on a team friendly deal, $7 million, and he signed up until the 2028-2029 season. So I think you look to extend. If you guys, I will look to see how Simon's gonna do this year, especially look at
Well,
his assist numbers because you do need a point guard, like a true point guard. He's not a true point guard, but
yeah.
he's kind of like, a combo guard who is gonna look for his own shots, but can set up players here and there. And
Hmm.
then, maybe get like a Chris Paul or maybe a Dame Lillard. We're gonna talk about that a little bit later. Come to
Hmm.
that team. There's been some buzz about Damian possibly
Yeah.
signing with the
Yeah.
Celtics with
There
his
is.
relationship with Tatum. They're close and they both recovering from an Achilles tear injury. So that'll be a perfect fit. I think you keep a guy like Simons. I really do like his game. There was some immaturities, rumors that we heard about him in Portland, but he's gonna be what. But once he is in the locker room with pros, got team guys that won championships, and Brad Stevens, and especially your head coach, you're not gonna take no nonsense from stuff like that. So I think this will be a good way for him to even become more mature. You're gonna see his game develop. I keep him and I keep Derek White. Derek White could even tutor him if you ask me, because like, okay, this guy pretty much plays the same way, is younger, more athletic. Take him under his wing.
Anthony Simons is pretty much one of the worst defensive guards in the league. So hopefully, if he is staying, we can have that step up
Mm-hmm.
because having a point guard rotation that, we went from Drew, who's one of the best perimeter defenders in the league, to Pritchard, who's one of the best scorers off the bench in the league. For both our point guards are net, it's hard to say negative defenders because like Pritchard tries, but he's only so tall. He can only
Yeah.
do so much. So like we have two negative defenders. Granted, again, we're not going to be. I wouldn't. We're not contending this coming year, but um,
Again, if you guys are
he
able to
fits though.
get,
He fits in the Celtics thing because he is a
yeah,
3-point chucker. So
yeah, and he's gonna chuck a good 6, 7 threes a game. And again, if you guys are able to get one of those, free agents that are still left, maybe a
mhm,
Russell Westbrook, maybe a Chris Paul, hell, maybe a Malcolm Brogdon, because I don't think he wants to stay with Washington. Hell, if you guys even get Ben Simmons, who's still a free agent out there, a guy who's gonna bring up the ball, set the offense, or even a campaign, have him there for a 1 year, 2 year, get your guy Tatum back, you guys will be set for 2026. And again, I think, like you said, his style of play fits with the Celtics. He's young. He could come off the bench. Him and Pritchard could be a two combo coming off the bench, give you instant scoring option. And then you give, Tatum a little bit more time to rest. Not as play as 35, not as play as many minutes, like 38, 40 minutes a game coming off that Achilles. So,
yeah,
you guys are in a good position, man, next year. Not next year, the following year after next year.
yeah, because we do own our first round pick too. So I mean,
Exactly.
I'm all against for if we're not trying to be contenders, which obviously with Tatum we're not. I would love if we lost more, but the Celtics aren't really a team to tank because of
You
everything they
guys will
did.
tank. You guys will tank. The NBA will
I,
send an amendment for you guys. Like if you guys lose about 50 games, we'll reward you. We know how the
I
NBA
wonder
works.
if and we're spending a long time on the Celtics,
Yeah.
but um, Jalen Brown also had a knee surgery too. So I'm wondering if after like he'll start the season, whatever, but if like after, if they'll pull like what they did with Brandon Ingram. Brandon Ingram had the longest sprained ankle I've ever seen last year. Like any minor injury, and they kind of just milk it to kind of be like, you know what, let's, figure out who's going to really be a part of our rotation for the year after. You got a bunch of younger players from the late first round picks the last few drafts.
Mhm.
Figure out who you guys want to keep, maybe make some sell a little bit at the trade deadline this year, see who'll come in. But yeah. All right.
Yeah.
Let's move on to your team. We spent way too long on that.
Yeah,
But
yeah, we did.
Brooklyn Nets re-signed Day'Ron Sharp, which I was surprised because it wasn't a very big deal. I thought some team like the Lakers or the Sixers would have offered something bigger to him. Zaire Williams. You added Terrence Mann and MPJ, and then your departures are Cam Johnson, D'Angelo Russell, and Trenton Watford.
Uh-huh.
I really don't think that this changes too much. These players
No.
that have left versus coming in. Granted, MPJ is of course a talent upgrade technically, but he's not changing anything.
No.
I think the Nets will still be towards the bottom of the East next year, especially when they determine What's going on with Cam Thomas? None of these restricted guys have re-signed yet.
Yeah.
I saw Cam Thomas doesn't even really have a market right now. Claxton, are you guys gonna is some team gonna get or some team gonna offer something for him? Granted, his biggest market was the Lakers, and they kind of got Aiton, but I think it could still happen. I think he's making like 25 million a year or something like that. But the Nets will still be towards the bottom. This doesn't change much for me.
Yeah, it doesn't change much for me either. Like I said, losing D'Lo sucks because he was a fan favorite in Brooklyn, but we know what the Nets are doing. They're just rebuilding, and they have a lot of future first round picks, especially from the Rockets, from their own. They got Phoenix's 2027, which projected to be 1-8. They got the Lakers in 2027. So yeah, Nets, they're rebuilding. Give them a couple years, they'll be back.
All right. Charlotte Hornets re-signed Trey Mann, who missed most of the season last year. They added Pat Connaughton, Spencer Dinwiddie, Mason Plumlee, and Colin Sexton. Departures is Misic, Nurkic, and Mark Williams.
Mm.
Some of these moves, like re-signing Trey Mann, great. Getting a guy like Colin Sexton, great. But like, damn, dude, that team is going to suck. That's another team that their front court not looking good after getting rid of Mark Williams and then Nick Richards at the deadline last year.
Mm-hmm.
So again, this doesn't change too much for me. Sure, you got some talent when you talk about Dinwiddie, you talk about Colin Sexton, but like, why is Mason Plumlee coming back to Charlotte? Why is he back there as a starting center years after, you know? But I don't know.
Maybe there's just no market for Mason Plumlee. He's like, it's good. I'll take a 1 year, $3 million deal. But yeah, the Hornets, I mean, solid upgrades. I do like Pat Connaughton. Spencer Dinwiddie again, a veteran in the locker room. He'll get his couple assists here and there. C plus. Charlotte's just gonna be a middle. I wouldn't say middle of the pack. They're gonna be a playing team, maybe. Still gonna be the bottom of the barrel in the East, but
I don't know.
yeah, a decent upgrade to say the least.
All right. Chicago Bulls re-signed Trey Jones. When I did a live stream on my channel for the first couple hours of free agency when it started, I was super surprised they brought him back. Not because he's bad, but they had so many guards, and this was before the Lonzo trade happened, which additions Isaac Okoro, departures Lonzo Ball. We are still waiting for Josh Giddey. I think Josh Giddey is going to get his contract. He played really well last year to where he deserves what he's about to get. Now, granted, if I figure that I said this, I figure it would start, at like maybe 28, and by the last year he's sitting around 36 million a year because obviously it goes up year by year. But if he's starting where he's making high 30s, then I think it's a bad contract. But I don't think he gets that.
Yeah, yeah, I think like you mentioned, Giddy will get re-signed. I mean, there was a report that he wants $30 million a year.
Mm-hmm.
For what he did, I think he'll be worth that. I mean,
Yeah.
it's not eye-popping numbers, but he is a borderline triple-double guy, almost 15 points, 8 rebounds, 7 assists. I think he'll get that. But I just gotta go on a little rant here for the Chicago Bulls.
Yeah.
Their GM, Mark Eversley, is the most ignorant, stupid GM I think I've ever seen in professional basketball. How do you not get a first round draft pick from either Lonzo Ball, Zach LaVine, or DeMar DeRozan?
Or Caruso.
Or Caruso. All those guys demand a first round draft pick, and you don't get nothing for them. What the hell is he doing in the Bulls front office? What the hell are the Chicago Bulls owners allowing him to facilitate these trades? These trades make no sense. And last but not least, you trade Lonzo Ball to a contender. What the hell?
I don't know if you know this. They got extended. Those people in the front office over there, they got extended. And that list where they didn't get a first round pick for any of those, core guys when the Bulls were the 1 seed at the trade deadline in like 2021.
It's a joke.
I guarantee you can add Vucevic to that list.
Yep.
Whenever he's out of there.
Yeah.
Franchise 100%. I feel so horrible for Bulls fans based on what they do because, like last year, you had 7 point guards in your rotation after the acquiring of Trey Jones and all that. Lonzo came back. And you just like the thing is like the GM believes they can make the Miami Heat push of 2023 an AC going, deep into the playoffs. Like they truly believe in this lineup. When you traded away Zach and DeMar, who were all-stars at the time, Vucevic, who was an all-star before that he got to Chicago, but had some 20-point seasons. Lonzo, who was at the time one of the best all-around point guards in the league, still can be, and then Caruso, one of the best defense. Like that team is nowhere near the same, and they fell off once Lonzo had gotten hurt.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know that. I mean, this none of these really change anything for about the Bulls for me, especially and the Josh Giddey stuff, which whenever he gets it, but
Franchise is a joke.
yeah, it's some rough times, man. So ever since Derrick Rose, it's been some rough times. Um, Cavs, they re-signed Sam Merrill on a 4-year deal. They add Lonzo, which we just talked about, Larry Nance, and departures Ty Jerome and Isaac Okoro. Larry Nance, I think, is perfect because they were playing Tristan Thompson as a backup in 2025 for Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. Granted, they kind of backed each other up a lot last year in general, like Evan Mobley and Jared Allen. But Larry Nance isn't, he's not this big, stiff center who can't play. Like, he can play with Jared Allen. He could play with Larry Nance. He can play with Evan Mobley.
Yeah, I know what you meant.
And then the Ty Jerome stuff, I mean, I think I put out a tweet and I said I thought he was going to get like 4 years, 80 million. He got 3 years, 28. That's 9 million a year. That's less than what Lonzo is making.
Mm-hmm.
So they must have either overestimated his value and what he was going to get, and they got ahead of it by getting Lonzo, which did happen before Ty signed, or they just didn't want it. Like I don't know. It was super surprising that he signed for the same amount or less than what Ty Jerome signed for.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, than what Trey Jones signed for. And Ty Jerome was a 6-man of the year, almost, like runner up or whatever, wherever he finished last year. So I was super surprised by that. I think, but good moves, getting Lonzo, getting Larry Nance. This really helps, especially when you look at the East and you say, the Bucks probably aren't going to be back there this year. The Pacers aren't going to be back there. The Celtics aren't going to be back there. It's really looking like a Cavs Knicks type of, like, they're the East winners, unless something like a Philly jumps back in or something.
Yeah, no, I agree. I mean, getting Lonzo Ball, I think is a big acquisition for them because they definitely needed somebody at the backup point guard position, especially with Ty Jerome, like you just mentioned, leaving. Donovan Mitchell is not a true point guard. He's a shooting guard in just a point guard's body. So I think that was a big, big pickup. Now, depending if Lonzo Ball can stay healthy, I think it's going to be a game changer for the Cavs. And like you said, backup too with Larry Nance Jr. backing up, Mobley and Jared Allen. So yeah, this was a good. I think the Cavs had a solid offseason. I'll say a B.
Yeah. And it's like Lonzo could either be your backup point guard, or there could be times where he plays that small forward with that starting lineup because he can guard 1 through 3. So I think those were really good pickups. Dallas Mavericks re-signed Dante Exum and Kyrie. They add D'Lo and they Dinwiddie leaves. D'Lo's a good, not replacement, but like he's a good player to have in there while you wait for Kyrie to return. As I think, I don't know when he'll be back. I saw a clip saying that he was like he wants to get like 100% and not rush back, so he might be out all year. He might come back at All-Star break. Who knows? But D'Lo works. D'Lo will do the thing when you talk about you have Clay, you got Cooper Flag, you got AD, and you got the bigs. D'Lo can work with that, and D'Lo's a good enough player to where he can hold things together, even though he's not his all-star self that he was in 2018 or whatever.
Yeah, I think this is one of the teams too that also won the free agency, despite them getting Cooper Flag with the first pick in the draft. D'Angelo Russell mentioned I think is a very good signing. Hold the fort down for Kyrie to come back. He's a almost 12.6 points per game scorer, 5.5 assists. So he'll get the job done until Kyrie comes back. Dante Exum again returning as well too. Lost Spencer Dinwiddie, which at this point in the career he's becoming a journeyman. So I'll give this a B+ again because they got everything that they need. It's just hold the fort, get everybody healthy, and they're gonna look to make a deep run in the playoffs come next year.
Yep. Denver, we already kind of talked about this a little bit in another episode, but they didn't re-sign anyone. They made the Cam Johnson, Michael Porter Jr. trade, so he's added. Bruce Brown's added. Tim Hardaway Jr., Valanciunas are all added, and departures is Saric and MPJ.
Yeah.
Um, I mean, we talked about this. They Cam Johnson, a similar player to Michael Porter Jr., lot less money, so they were able to bring in Tim Hardaway. They were able to make the Valanciunas trade. It sucks if Valanciunas goes back overseas, which seems like it's rumored to happen because Jokic hasn't had a competent backup center in a long time or almost ever. Like DeAndre Jordan was playing minutes, and he's kind of in the boat of like Tristan Thompson for the Cavs. Like he shouldn't really be playing like that unless it's a blowout. Um, but I guess Valanciunas, he can't play with Jokic. So I guess his idea is like, they're only going to need me to play 10, 12 minutes a night. In the playoffs, maybe less than 10. So he's like, I can do more overseas, which again would suck after, trading for him. But I mean, another one of the biggest winners for sure.
Yeah, yeah, definitely a big winner. They had a very, very good off season.
Hmm.
We like you said, we mentioned, so we're not gonna have to go deep into that. Does
Yeah.
suck that Valanciunas is gonna look like he's gonna leave the NBA, and which is gonna leave a big hole for the Nuggets in that center position. Maybe they can go ahead and possibly swoop Al Horford. He is a little bit old. He's an aging guy, 39, gonna be 40 next year, but he still give you some valuable minutes. You just need a center that's gonna give Jokic a break and give
Right.
valuable minutes for him. So I think a guy like Al Horford would do it. I believe
And
I'm looking
Horford
at
could play with him if they wanted to.
exactly. They go that double big as well too. I'm
Hmm.
looking at other possible free agents that are out there. Maybe Thomas Bryant from the Pacers. I don't think they re-signed him. He could also be a lob threat. He is younger, 28 years old, so I think that'll be another solid backup. I don't know if they're
Uh-huh.
gonna re-sign DeAndre Jordan, but they definitely need just a
Yeah.
backup. So we'll see about that. But yeah, I would say again, even with them possibly not getting uh Jonas Valanciunas. They still had a great offseason.
Hmm. All right. Detroit Pistons re-signed Paul Reed. They added Karis LeVert and Duncan Robinson, and departures were Tim Hardaway and Dennis Schroeder. I mean, you lost some important pieces here. Like Dennis Schroeder was really big in the playoffs once you acquired him, but you get some bench scoring for sure. Again, ball handlers other than Cade, it looks kind of rough once you lose Dennis Schroeder. But Jaden Ivey will be back, so maybe that part of it.
Yeah.
But I don't think it changes how good the Pistons will be too much. It just gives them a different look, I guess, with some of those players.
Yeah, I agree. Like I said, does suck losing Schroeder, as you just mentioned, was big in the playoffs, but
Mm.
they'll just leave more ball hand opportunities for Cade Cunningham. Like you mentioned, Jaden Ivey when he does come back. Maybe they could move Jaden Ivey to the two and just have Cade Cunningham be the point forward nowadays, copycat of like LeBron and Magic back in the days. But yeah, I think overall, solid pickup. Them also losing Tim Hardaway Jr. does hurt because he is a knockdown catch and shoot 3-pointer, but maybe this also opened the floodgates for Duncan Robinson, who they just got back because he had a first year in Miami when he signed that big contract and then
Hmm.
didn't see the floor as much, kind of fell out the rotation. So
Hmm.
I wouldn't say they lost too much. I think the Pistons also had themselves a solid off season. Again, Karis LeVert too, coming off the bench, instant offense. So I give him as well a B.
Right. Yeah, I can't believe Duncan Robinson again got a pretty like this is like a 16 million per year thing for
Yeah,
him again, and I can't believe he got that much. But
no, for real.
oh man, let's talk about one of the biggest losers so far. And it's
Yes.
not because they lost anybody, it's because they haven't done anything. The
Yep.
only thing that happened, which was super surprising to me, is Kevon Looney, the Golden State Warrior lifer,
Mm.
took a deal to go to New Orleans. Um, Golden State free agency is basically, you're all the good players are skipping now. And I guess if you're waiting for Al Horford, cool, but Al Horford's not changing that much for you,
Yeah. Uh,
especially if you're not going to start him and you're just going to run the dumbass lineup of Draymond at the five. Like, you know how I feel about the Warriors. So I don't even need
yeah.
to talk about this. This is one of the biggest losers by far.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you. They definitely get an F because Kevon Looney was there for 3 out of the 4 championships. Definitely gonna have his jersey retired. But the Golden State Warriors, they don't really have much salary cap room. I mean, they don't have no wiggle room. Steph Curry's gonna be making $60 million next year. Butler's gonna be making almost 54 million. Draymond's making 25 million, almost 26 million. Moody's making 11 million. They're not gonna be able to bring back Kaminga. So they're fucked, to say the least. They have nothing. The thing that they could only resign a player for the vets minimum, and like you said, that's Al Horford. But in that they are strapped salary cap wise, and they're just gonna have to run it back with the same old ass roster again next year. They're not going anywhere. This the Golden State Warriors moving forward, so they had no wiggle room to do anything.
Yeah, I mean, the only way they can turn this around is what they get for the Kaminga thing, and they don't even deserve to be able to get anything for Kaminga with the way
Yeah,
that he's done for them.
yeah, I agree.
But yeah, loser for sure. And
Mhm.
holy moly, let's talk about one of the biggest winners of free agency so far. Houston Rockets re-signed Steven Adams, Aaron Holiday, Jeff Green, Jabari Smith, Jayshawn Tate, and Fred Van Vliet. They add Capella, Durant, and Dorian Finney-Smith. And departures, Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Jock Landale, and then Cam Whitmore, who they just traded yesterday. Um, People were surprised by the Clint Capella thing, but they clearly don't remember that they love doing this offensive rebounding thing. They were the best offensive rebounding team in the league. They offensive rebounded half of their misses and made more possessions out of it. And teams aren't going to be able to beat them like that. I think the Jabari Smith re-signing is good. It's not like a super huge deal. So if you wanted to move on from it, you could trade him. Dorian Finney-Smith, I mean, you stole him from the Lakers for basically nothing, at least as of now. It might turn into a sign and trade, but um, Kevin Durant, of course. And again, the departure. When you look at the departure list, but you look at who they added, I can't complain.
Yeah. I'm right there with you again. You know how I feel about Jalen Green. I think if he had played better, it would have been very hard to include him in that trade for
Yeah.
KD. Maybe Jabari Smith would have been the casualty, but
Mm-hmm.
yeah, you looking at their roster, their depth chart is off the charts. I mean, they're deep at the center position. Shangoon, Steven Adams is a big body. You bring back Ken Capella, who was a Houston Rockets fan favorite, a lob threat.
Right.
Smith, Tari Eason, Jeff Green, veteran leadership in the locker room. KD at the three, Finney Smith. And you also got Taurean who can play the three, and Ahmet Thompson who could play the two or the three. This team is deep at every position. And shout out to Raphael Stone, who is a Rockets GM. I think he is an early candidate for executive of the year because
Yeah, for
they
sure.
had a tremendous all season. So Houston is looking like a team that's going to be reckoned with to win a
Yeah.
championship next year. They are locked and loaded and they're going for it. So they had a great all season.
Yeah, they have a legit 10-man rotation that where
Yes,
they could play all those players for 20 minutes if they wanted. Like
easily.
and I think Reed Shepard's going to get real minutes this year too. Because their guards are really only Fred Van VanVleet and Amen Thompson. And Amen Thompson doesn't play guard a lot of the time anyway because of his versatility. I mean, he can play like pretty much 1 through 4, but I mean, I think they're going to get real minutes from him this year. But yeah, certainly one of the biggest, probably the biggest winner of free agency.
Agreed.
Oh man, Pacers re-sign nothing. They add Jay Huff and they lose Miles Turner. Um, I mean, Dame's not really a part of this. That's more for the Bucks, who we'll get to. But losing Miles Turner because you don't want to pay the luxury tax. It's not like they're in the second apron. It's not like it's none of that. They just don't want to. They don't want to pay the tax. So you lose. So you split up the core of Halliburton, Siakam, Turner, and all the other guys because you don't want to pay a tax when you were one game from being NBA champions. One game. It's not like you got steamrolled. It's not like you lost in the first round. Granted, I did see that they kind of went back on this. They were willing to go over the luxury for Miles Turner before Tyrese Halliburton tore his Achilles, which I think is still bullshit because, like, he'll be back. It's not like he retired on the spot. He'll be back next year, or not next year, the year after. And it's not like any of those guys are like old or on their last leg. So you lose Miles Turner, and you very quickly go from a game away from the NBA Finals to I don't think they're going to make the playoffs next year. They might be play in, but I don't. They're not going to be a top 6 seed. I don't think, unless we see
Yeah.
big jumps.
Yeah, I completely agree with you. And we have to start calling these owners out by name. And the Indiana Pacers owner is Herb Simon, a 90-year-old man who's closer to his deathbed than he is living life. You want to know how much he's worth,
Tell
Keith?
me.
$4.7 billion. And this guy did not want to go into the luxury tax just to play a couple of extra few millions of dollars to Miles Turner, like you just mentioned. This team was right there. If it wasn't for Tyrese Halliburton popping his Achilles, they might be holding the Larry O'Brien trophy
Mm-hmm.
in June. But no, you let a guy who was one arguably the glue to that roster, all because you didn't want to pay him a couple of extra millions of dollars. Yet you get Nas Reed, who was a lesser player, in my opinion, than Miles Turner, gets signed
Mm-hmm.
to pretty much the same deal, if not a little bit more money. 5 years, $125 million was the Nas Reed contract. You couldn't pay Miles Turner just $3-4 million extra. That's all he was asking for. So again, this is why I feel no sympathy for these billionaire owners. This is why I'm all for players doing what's in the best interest for their players. Because guess what? These billionaire owners' pockets are 10 times deeper, but they continue to be cheaper and cheaper and cheaper. So Herb Simons, the Pacers owner, fuck the franchise. You have nothing to blame for himself because he did not want to pay Turner just a few extra millions of dollars. So don't blame the GM, blame the owner because they don't want to pay these players, despite the fact them being, have a net worth of billions of dollars. They can buy and sell the United States if they wanted to. So they are the biggest losers of the free agency. I don't understand this move at all. It was a slap in the face to Miles Turner. It was a slap in the face to Pacers fans across the nation. You can't make this shit up. You got a guy who's worth almost $5 billion, couldn't even reach into his pockets, which is pennies to him, to pay a guy $4 or $5 million extra a year. Are you kidding me? It's a disgrace.
Yeah, definitely. Because that's not a crazy contract.
At
Miles Turner
all.
could have totally got like 35 million a year or something like
Yeah.
that if a team wanted to overpay. And 25, I don't. It's not that crazy when you look at players getting 50 million. Granted, those players are a lot better than Miles Turner, but like we see bad contracts all the time, and that just isn't one of them. So I
Mm.
can't believe that happened. But Clippers re-signed Batum and Harden. They add Brooke Lopez, which I thought was pretty shocking, and then they lose Drew Eubanks. Brooke Lopez is a different kind of center to put alongside James Harden. You think of like Clint Capella, you think of a Zubac, you think of these, lob catching, good rebounding centers. Brooke Lopez is not really a lob catcher. He's not a good rebounder. He's a space the floor. He's a good shot blocker, but he's also like 38. So I don't think this really changes the Clippers too much. I mean, obviously Brooke Lopez is better than Drew Eubanks, so they got a talent upgrade. But yeah, I mean, I don't think this changes too much.
No, it doesn't change much at all. I agree. I mean, they're still going to be a middle of the pack team. Maybe they could maybe bring back Chris Paul. And I got some breaking news for you. Chris Paul just announced that next year, the 2025-2026 season, will be his final year in the NBA. So that'll be, they say he wants to play closer to home. His family still lives in LA. So I think what a better way to go back and play at home. And the Clippers, again, and that team is a title contending team. So yeah, middle of the pack, but I would like to see them maybe sign Chris Paul and maybe Chris Paul go to maybe the Suns. But yeah, just gonna pop it up for you guys right here. Let me share the screen. Underdog NBA just oh, you're sharing it. Well, but yeah, Underdog NBA just announced that he did like a sit down with I forgot what her name is, Jamel Hill. He just said, yeah, next year's gonna be his last year. So hey, I would like to see Chris Paul back in a Clipper uniform one last time. Play close to his friends and family.
Wait, did he announce a team or he just said
No,
that
he just announced that next year's
oh,
gonna be his last year.
okay,
Yeah.
okay. Yeah, that I mean, great career, one of the best point guards of all time.
Mm.
So he deserves that, and he's at the end of his career anyways. But
Mm.
um
Oh, this team. Oh Lord.
Los Angeles Lakers. They re-signed Jackson Hayes, who has a no trade clause, by the way. They add DeAndre Ayton and Jake LaRavia, and then they lose Dorian Finney-Smith. I want to hear what you have to say about DeAndre Ayton.
Oh, I don't know if Rob Pelinka knew that free agency started July or actually June 30th. Maybe
Uh-huh.
he's still asleep. It was good that they signed DeAndre Ayton because they desperately needed a center. So I guess that
Yeah.
was the only thing that they could have done. But you
Mhm.
don't have anybody. Resign Jackson Hayes to a 1-year deal. It was a vet's minimum. And I don't know if this is true. There's been rumors that he has a no trade clause in his contract. I don't know what the hell the Lakers are thinking or doing. I don't know what the hell Rob Pelinka is doing. Maybe, they're just going to shift their attention to just building around Luka Doncic. But I am just shocked as everybody else. I mean, you let go Finney Smith to the Rockets. Yeah, Hayden Aiton is a solid pickup, but who else? Your roster is not that good.
Yeah.
Alex Len, is Christian Wood still on the team? I don't even think so. Jared Vanderbilt, yeah, solid. But other than that, I'm looking at the roster. Okay, Cameron's not there anymore. Rui Hachimura is again solid. Austin Reeves one's a big deal, so maybe they're saving money for Austin Reeves, Luka Doncic. But outside of four guys, along with LeBron, this roster is complete garbage.
Yeah.
Uh,
Uh,
F minus.
yeah. I mean, DeAndre Ayton, I made a video talking about this, and it was like DeAndre Ayton is a good player, right? Granted, he had some attitude issues in the last couple of years of Phoenix. He's also not the center like that you would think of when you say next to LeBron and Luca. Someone comment when I put a clip of this on my TikTok saying that someone was like, "Yeah, the Lakers are about to score 130 points." I'm like, "Yeah, well, they might give up 140 every night because LeBron, Luca, Reeves, and Eaton are your four best players. None, I mean, LeBron sure has his moments, but like they're not. You don't put a defender in any of those players' names. Rui Hachimura, not a defender. Like that team just doesn't have like defensively. I would not be surprised if this team, like they were the third seed last year. Granted, that wasn't a whole year with Luca. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if the Lakers are back to a playing team. They could very well be a top four seed, but I wouldn't be surprised either way. They could be a top whatever seed, or they could be in the play-in. And I would just because again the offense is great, but DeAndre Ayton is more of he's a finesse big where he some skill moves, some I want to, dance around you instead of a center that I want to go through you, initiate contact. He doesn't do that like, a center that you would want next to Luca. But he's still a good player. I think he just gets hate because he was the number one pick over guys like Luca, like Trey Young, like Jaren, um, and the way things ended in Phoenix as well.
Yeah, I agree with you. I mean, listen, Aiden is a very solid player. Like it's just mentioned, his attitude has just been the biggest problem. But when you
Mhm.
got a guy who's literally he's a double machine. He
Yeah.
had 14 and a half points per game last year and 10.2 rebounds with Portland. So he's solid. In 2 years, $16.6 million is a good contract for his production. Actually, he's probably is a steal for his kind of production. Especially you see guys who are averaging his numbers getting $100 million over 4 years, $200+ million. Rudy Gobert, Allah. But
Mhm.
I think the Lakers are just they're strapped salary cap wise because LeBron opted into his $56 million deal, so that gives them less room to operate. They don't have much to sign. They're gonna try to re-sign Luka to a big extension because they're gonna focus on Luka Doncic as the face of the franchise, rightfully so, because
Mhm.
LeBron's just old. Luka's 26 years old, and then they want to re-sign Reeves. But other than that, I don't. Maybe next year will be the summer of the Lakers, but this year it's a shit show. But yeah, Ayton is a good player. Like I don't. I hate the Ayton disrespect. Yes, everybody has maturity issues, like you just mentioned. Simons had maturity issues when he got traded from Portland to the Boston Celtics. A lot of players had maturity issues when you give them millions of dollars and they don't know how to handle it. But in terms of his production, he's a good player, and a lot of people
Yeah.
rave that he's a wonderful teammate. He just sometimes butt heads with the coaches and doesn't like to take accountability. Maybe JJ Redick will, get him straightened up and won't take that shit in LA. But And outside of that, this is a F. I don't know what the Lakers are doing. You only have so many years left of LeBron. He might retire this year. He might retire next year. Who
Might be
knows? But
traded.
he might be traded. Yeah. So I don't know what's going on with the Lakers front office and with this roster. But this team is a shit show. Instead of Lake Show, it's a shit show.
Yeah, and the Austin Reeves turned down like a $90 million contract, and I saw rumors that like the Lakers could be able to offer him like 200 million.
Yeah.
If the Lakers ever give Austin Reeves $200 million, I mean, I'm not a Laker fan anyway, but like what the like 200 million? That's like 45, 50 million a year plus incentive, whatever the hell. If you Austin Reeves has never even made an all-star game. He's never even had all-star buzz. Why the hell would you give a player $200 million? If he is demanding that, you better sign and trade him, because if you have Luka and Reeves, say LeBron's gone, you have Luka and Reeves as your top two players. I mean, Austin Reeves is not Kyrie Irving.
No.
That shit worked in Dallas. They got to a finals. They got steamrolled in the finals, but they got to a finals. But 200, I can't. There's no way.
Yeah, and again, his production does demand him to get that type of contract, because last year, 20 points a game, top 35 in scoring, almost 6 assists. He was top 25 in assists per game, and he was very efficient from the field and from the free throw line. So offensively, he is worth that contract. But as you just mentioned, defensively, he's like a chair. He's gonna get blown by every time, and maybe you could try to work out a deal like, hey, we're not going to give you 250, but you take 200 million, because he is worth that in terms of his production and stats, especially in today's NBA market, is worth $200 million. Because a lot of guys like Rudy Gobert is getting paid $200 million. He's not worth $200 million. But Austin Reeves is worth $200 million. But defensively, he's going to get blown by. He's like a cone. So
I think if Ty Jerome started, he could put up what Austin Reeves just started, and Ty
we'll
Jerome
see.
just got 9 million a year. So I
but
definitely do not think offensively he is worth 200 million.
But either way, Reeves is gonna get a big contract if it's from the Lakers or another team that comes in and signs him. He's gonna get well over $100 million for the next 3, 4, 5 years easily.
All right, Memphis re-signs Santi Aldama, Jaren, and Cam Spencer. They add Cole Anthony, KCP, Ty Jerome, and Jock Landale, and then they lose Desmond Bain, Luke Kennard, and Jay Huff. A lot happened for Memphis, but if I'm being honest, re-signing Aldama, I think is good. Obviously, you gave Jaren, a $200 million contract, but I don't know that Desmond Bain trade, and we talked about the trade when it happened already, but that seems to me like a trade that you do when you're about to rebuild. Like Desmond Bain trade was very similar to the Mikal Bridges trade. 5 first-round picks, but Mikal Bridges was kind of the last player on a Brooklyn Nets team that was good, and the Nets were going towards rebuilding. The Grizzlies still have 2 All-Stars in Ja and Jaren over there.
Yeah.
So that doesn't really make too much sense to me in that way. KCP and Cole Anthony are fine players. But the Grizzlies offseason was a little confusing for me. Just in all of that sense, where you trade a guy like Desmond Bain, who's one of the better players to not make an all-star game in this era of basketball, but I don't know. KCP didn't have a good year. Cole Anthony, like, you've got Scottie Pippen, you got Ty Jerome now, you have John Morant. Granted, it looks like they are trying to move on from Cole Anthony, but if you can't, that's 4 straight up point guards.
Yeah. I think I don't know what the Grizzlies are doing. Like I do understand and I agree with them trading away Desmond Bain because they needed money to sign Jared Jackson to that massive 5-year deal, and Desmond Bain is still on his rookie max extension, which he signed 5 years, almost $200 million, 197 to be exact, and he's making about $38 million a year. That's a lot. Oh, 36. This year's gonna make 36. Next year he's gonna make almost 40. So that's a lot of money for a guy. Again, he's a good player. but he's never made an All-Star, and he's 26 years old, going to be 27. So I understand why they made that trade, but yeah, I mean, Jaren Jackson, he's a big contract. I don't know when. Actually, yeah, I think they just signed around the same thing with their point guard. But I don't know what the Grizzlies. I don't know. I think this team is just it's a middle of the pack team.
Yeah.
Is Ja gonna be okay with this deal? Because this is gonna be, believe it or not, I think this is gonna be year 6 or year 7 for John Morant.
Yep.
He's approaching vet status now, and he's 25, 26 years old. So
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
don't know. I think this is just salary cap again. Hey, we had to make this move. They value Jackson more than Desmond Bain because of defense and offense. But Josh 25, he's gonna be 26 next month in August. So we'll see. But yeah, I'm just confused. This is middle of the pack team for sure in the West.
All right. Miami Heat, man.
Oh God.
Sim- Resignings, none. They add Fontecchio and Davion Mitchell, and then they lose Duncan Robinson. Um, Miami, are you guys just really hoping for Jonathan Kuminga? Is that going to be your? Is that you struck out on KD, so you're just going to do nothing? That seems like the Miami Heat way when they didn't get Damian Lillard, when they didn't get like Drew Holiday, like they just, I don't know, bro. Like this Heat team, another team that like maybe this season because of all the teams that are going to be, in losing with injuries, they might be a solidified playoff team, but they're not about to make no noise.
Uh Pat Riley, I don't know what's going on with Miami's inability to land top free agents and keep top free agents, marquee players. We know the
Right.
whole fiasco that happened between them and Jimmy Butler.
Yep.
Rumors about KD going to the team didn't happen. Rumors about Damian Lillard going to the team, he was interested, didn't happen. Bradley Beal going to the team hasn't happened yet. Now, if he might get bought out, we'll see. They have had an inability to get top markets, and that is unlike Pat Riley in the Miami Heat, especially Miami. No state income tax. I understand, their fan loyalty is not the best, but you got a team playing alongside Bam Adebayo, Tyler Hero. You get one more, 1A, 1B type player. They're right in the mix of the Eastern Conference Finals, especially next year in the East. It's going to be awful because the players are not going to be competitive.
Hmm.
You're gonna have, the Bucks, and we're gonna get to them at the bottom screen. They're not gonna be competitive. So the East, you could say more so, is wide open. And I don't know why teams or why players are not lining up to play with Miami, why Pat Riley has not been able to attract free agents, but maybe also they're in purgatory. They're gonna be a playing team next year. They didn't add anything, they didn't lose anything of value, but I just don't know. Same thing, what the Grizzlies are doing is middle of the pack, borderline playing team.
Yeah. You know why I think they can't land anybody?
Why?
Pat Riley.
Yeah.
All right, man.
Oh, here we go.
This is might be our longest one here. Milwaukee Bucks, they re-signed KPJ, Bobby Portis, Prince, Sims, and Trent Jr. They add Misic, Miles Turner, and Gary Harris. Departures of Brooke Lopez, Pat Connaughton, and they waived Damian Lillard. Um, Waiving a top 75 player of all time. Waiving a guy who is, I believe, like he's a perennial all-star, a 9-time all-star, 7-time all-NBA, top 5 shooter of all time. Still, he's older, tore his Achilles, of course. But how do we feel about the Milwaukee Bucks waiving a top 75 player of all time?
John Horst, the Bucks GM, should be immediately fired. If I'm Giannis, I request a trade the minute that they waived Damian Lillard because he was very unhappy about that. You're looking at this roster. They pretty much kept everybody except Brooke Lopez and Pat Connaughton. They pretty much traded. If you look at it realistically, they said, okay, they traded Damian Lillard for Miles Turner. No disrespect to Miles Turner. He's a very, very good player, double machine, but he's
Mhm,
not Damian Lillard. And even on top of that, the Milwaukee Bucks still have to pay Dame Lillard all of his money until
mhm.
2030. They have to pay him $22.5 million for the next 5 years. So they're still going to take a salary cap hit from his contract. I don't know what the fuck that office is thinking. I don't know what the fuck the owner is thinking. I don't know what the fuck the GM is thinking. But if I'm Giannis, who is 30, who is in the midst of his prime,
Hmm.
this is not a championship contending roster. Now, I've seen guys on ESPN talk about, well, Dame Lillard wasn't going to play next year. Achilles so tried to justify this move. You can't justify waiving a top 75 player of all time, arguably a top 4 point guard in the NBA, even with the torn Achilles coming off or torn Achilles. Dame Lillard is that dude. I don't know what they're thinking. I think that they just hit a panic mode. This is a bizarre franchise. And Giannis, this gives every more motivation and reasoning for Giannis to get the hell up out of there, because
Hmm.
clearly you wave a guy like Dame, you are not saying this is in the best interest to surround your best player ever, who's ever worn a Bucks jersey, to surround him with top tier talent. It doesn't make no sense at all. I
Hmm.
waited out a year, get Dame healthy, and then you bring it back. Now, Gabe, he's gonna come back 36 years old, but I take Dame coming off a torn Achilles at 36 years old than 80% of the league.
Right.
It's just idiotic. It's nonsensical. You can't make this shit up.
Yeah. Because I think Dame was only on two, so you would have to pay him for this coming season, which he wouldn't play, and
Yep,
then I believe you had to pay him for one more year after. And
and that's it.
now they extend it another 3 years. Granted, it's not as much per year; it's about 22 million a year. But again, that's still taking a hit to your contract books, and the man's not going to be on your team. And you have that for 5 years, and you're trying to build around Giannis. Again, like you said, their greatest player, their best franchise player, and they have to pay Damian Lillard 22 million when he's not even on the roster. Um, I would absolutely love if Damian Lillard's team told him, "Hey, go to whatever team you want. Take a minimum. Go to a team and make a ridiculous, you're getting paid an NBA salary for the next 5 years. We've never seen a player just get waived like this, especially of this caliber. We've never seen a player of Damian Lillard's caliber take a minimum or, a mid-level, whatever. Um, Make two firsts. Go to a team, whether it's the Celtics and you get to rehab a year with Lillard, or you go to. I saw the Golden State Warriors wanted him. Why
They got
you
no
want
money to
Curry
sign
and
them.
Dame? Like what the?
Yeah, no.
Um, I mean, the offense would be crazy, but
Yeah.
defensively that would be horrible. And Golden State defensively already is a little up in the air. Um, like wherever he wants to go. Just let him go wherever he wants to go. Let him spend the year, rehabbing or in Portland because he wanted to go back, but the Bucks never let him go back or anything like that. Whatever the story is, it's just a super interesting situation that we've never seen before, and I don't know what's going to happen because we have. It's not like we have a reference or of history to go off of
Yeah.
because we've never seen it.
It is just, when I saw that news report pop on my phone, I was like, what the fuck are the
Right.
Bucks thinking? What, like, if they had kept Damian Lillard inside Miles Turner, I'm like, oh, this is a move
Well,
that's
yeah.
gonna keep Giannis
Yeah.
happy. Okay, wait, Dame comes back until 2026, 2027 season. You got Miles Turner, give a little bit of a rest to Giannis, doesn't have to play, point forward and center. But this Giannis is just like, what are we doing? What you know, like you just mentioned, take the minimum. The Bucks still gonna have to pay him. They're
Hmm.
still guaranteed to pay every cent of his contract that he has left. 2 years, 100 million, over $100 million. Take the minimum. Go to a team, make $5 million. Maybe he goes to Boston. Boston signed for 2 years, $10 million, whatever the case may be, because he's not going to play it all next year.
Yeah.
Get paid to rehab, and then the following year, when you come back, approaching age 36, ball out and go crazy. And this is the thing with the Milwaukee Bucks. They are indirectly responsible if Dame does go to a team and they win a championship with Dame
Yeah.
Lillard, giving away 2 championships. The first, when they traded Drew Holiday for Dame Lillard, I said they probably should trade like a Chris Middleton, but they had to trade
Right.
Drew. Drew went to the Celtics, rerouted from Portland to Boston, from Portland to Boston, and
Hmm.
look what happened. The Celtics won the championship. There was a missing ingredient. Now you let go of Dame, and he goes to a team that just needs his caliber, his production. You give rap two different franchises championships. Giannis, Giannis, please. I know you don't watch, you probably don't watch this. Get the hell out of Milwaukee. They are wasting your prime years. You have done more than enough for that franchise. You have delivered them a title. You have delivered them two MVPs. You are a multiple time All Star, first team All NBA, multiple time Defensive Player of the Year. John Horst and the Bucks owners are not showing a initiative to surround you with talent that's going to extend your championship window. Get the fuck out of Milwaukee ASAP. It's ridiculous, man. It really is ridiculous.
Yeah. But part of that, like what you said, like now tell Giannis to leave. Like I can't. It was so hard for me to believe that they didn't get Giannis's blessing to do this, right? Like Giannis, there's no way Giannis woke up and saw that the Bucks released Damian Lillard without him knowing.
He didn't even know that was happening.
Damian Lillard, yeah, he didn't know.
Yeah.
But I guess Dame said he was happy, so good for him. But like you lose Giannis and you sign Miles Turner. Like, so now you just have Miles Turner. And look at this roster. Look at the roster that I've had pulled up. They still have Dame and some of these people up here, like Brooke Lopez. But like, so what? You say when everyone's healthy, you got KPJ, Gary Trent, Kyle Kuzma, Giannis, and Miles Turner. What is that doing?
No.
I mean, granted, it's technically better because you weren't going to have Dame anyway. So sure, you get a better player in Miles Turner, but now your three best players are Miles Turner, Giannis, and Bobby Portis. And one of them's not start. Bobby Portis isn't starting. That team is not good. Dame, I mean, hopefully he gets what he wants out of this because he's didn't do a lot of winning in his first like 12 years of Portland. Then the Bucks hasn't gone perfectly either, of course, especially even now. But I don't know. I mean, it was just such a shocking thing.
And Keith, also, who's their point guard? They don't have a point guard. After
Right
you let go of Dame, you don't have a point guard. Kevin Porter Jr. is not a point guard. If I'm Giannis can handle the point position, but Giannis is not a point guard. He's a power forward center. They don't have a point. I'm looking at their point guard depth chart right here. They have nobody. Nobody.
Yeah.
You gonna let Kyle Kuzma handle the ball? Like,
no,
I don't
Kyle
know.
Kuzma needs to figure something out.
Yes. He might be the next one to get traded.
He might be the next one to be released.
Like Gary Harris is going to be your point guard. He's a 2. Gary Trent Jr. is going to be your point guard. Like, I'm just, like I said, I feel like I'm sounding like a broken record, but this is just, it's fucking ridiculous.
Right.
Let's
move on. Timberwolves re-sign Ingles, Randall, and Naz Reid. Departures for Nikhil, Alexander Walker, Garza, and Josh Minott, and they haven't added anybody. I'm glad that they re-signed Naz Reid and Julius Randle. They both really proved themselves to get contracts, especially Julius Randle, who's kind of up in the air when they acquired him because it was like, he had over the length of his career in New York and everything, he was known as more of a playoff dropper. He was very good in the playoffs, which is, advocated for him getting a 3-year deal. I will say Rob Dillingham needs to, Rob Dillingham's going to be forced to play this year, even though he's probably, if you talk about height and weight, Rob Dillingham is probably the smallest player in the league. Like,
yes.
Especially in a team of big, lengthy defenders, talking about McDaniels, Edwards, Gobert, all these guys, they're really going to need to get some step up from, like, again, Dillingham, Terrence Shannon Jr. Do they have a draft pick? I don't know why I don't think they had a first round pick this year.
I don't think so.
I doubt it because they traded a bunch for Gobert. But yeah, I don't know. Do you have anything to say about Minnesota?
I do not like the loss of Alexander Walker, as you mentioned in the previous video. I thought he was a good 3-and-D guy. Same thing, with Luka Garza, even though he didn't play much, but he was valuable. We can give you valuable minutes coming off the bench. But yeah, I mean, their priority was keeping Naz Reid, which they did, and keeping Julius Randle. So they got those two guys again, Joe Ingles, which 1 year deal. But yeah, I think again, this move doesn't really do anything for the Timberwolves. I still think they're gonna be, maybe a top 3 seed, maybe 3, 4, 5 in the West next year.
Yeah.
But yeah, they didn't add anybody of significance, but they didn't really lose anybody of import significance, in my opinion. So yeah, it stays the same.
New Orleans, no re-signings. They add Sadiq Bey, Looney, and Jordan Poole. And then we see departures of Bruce Brown, CJ McCollum, and Kelly Olynyk. It's like the New Orleans Pelicans, they have a lot, but they don't have a lot. It's so weird because, like, you've got Jordan Poole, you've got DeJounte Murray, you have Jordan Hawkins, Jose Alvarado, Trey Murphy, Herb Jones, Zion, now Kevon Looney and Sadiq Bey. You add Derek Queen and Jeremiah Fears from the draft this year. I don't think I think this is gonna be another year they're a bottom 5 seed.
Yeah,
I
I
can see
would. Oh,
them
sorry. Go ahead.
making it. Sorry,
No,
I
go ahead.
see them maybe making the play in if Zion's healthy, but like the centers they have between Kevon Looney, Derek Queen, playing alongside Zion. I don't Kevon Looney. I would bet money Kevon Looney has a bottom 10 vertical in the league. Derek Queen uh is not really. When I was doing my draft stuff, I always thought of Derek Queen more of as like a 4 because he's a skilled big. He's not really the best defensively. He's not necessarily a straight up center NBA wise. But I think he's gonna have to. So I don't love the front court there. But they do have so many good players though. That's the hard thing about this team.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. Like you look at this team on paper, it screams top 4 team in the West. Like you
Yeah.
mentioned, Dejounte Murray. We'll see how he's going to come back after recovering from an Achilles, but he's still a very good player. Who's
Yeah.
former All Star. They got again Trey Murphy, who they'll probably be looking to build around as well. You got Herb Jones. If Zion can fucking stay healthy, he is a big difference maker. That's the big if. Jose Alvarado. So this team is very, very deep, but I'm just like, I don't. They just fired, their GM not too long ago. They brought in,
Mhm.
who's that guy who used to play for the Detroit Pistons? I forgot his name.
Chauncey.
Yeah, who?
Chauncey Billups.
No, 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 no. As a GM for the Pelicans.
Yeah, I think it's
No, no. Chauncey Billups was a coach. I
hold
forgot his name. Hold on. New Orleans.
Troy Weaver. Oh, Joe Dumars.
Joe, yes, there we
My
go. Yeah,
fault.
they
Yeah,
they brought him in as Sorry, we had a blank moment. Yeah, they brought in Joe Dumars as president of basketball operations. They fired their previous GM. So
yes,
I mean, they have like you said. You look at this team on paper; they're a good roster. They
right.
just again injuries is a big if. I feel like they're just mixing and matching to see
Yeah,
what works and what doesn't. But I don't know. Like I said, middle of the pack team, maybe borderline playing in the play in. But this team, if they're able to be healthy and everything clicks on all cylinders, they could be easily a fifth, sixth
right.
seed in the West next year.
Right. And I don't really know the stories of a lot of like I don't know if DeJounte is going to be ready by the beginning of the season because he tore was it his ACL he tore or something like that
Towards Achilles, yeah.
or Achilles. Trey Murphy and Herb Jones tore their shoulder last year at some point. Zion, I mean, who knows if he's ready, if he's healthy, if he's cleared of all the off court stuff. Like I just don't know. But
Yeah.
yeah, you look at the names and the names are like wow, but um it just it's a conflicting team.
Yeah. No, it really
The
is.
Knicks, no re-signings or departures, but they add Clarkson and Yabusele. Those are great additions to me. Yabusele, I thought would have been perfect there or in Denver. Um, I mean, I think Jordan Clarkson was a minimum, and Yabusele, I think, is like $6 million a year. You didn't spend any big money. You didn't lose anybody, at least not so far. You might lose like campaign, I think, but uh, you still got everybody, and those are good. Another team that doesn't have a lot of depth last year. Those are two players that could play. Granted, Jordan Clarkson, haven't heard a ton about because he's been sucking it up in Utah lately the past couple of years, but he's still, he can still score. And I mean, he's still a good bench player, not one of the best like he was when he won Six Man of the Year in 2020, I think, but they're good players to add.
Mhm. Yeah, I feel like we would grade the Knicks based off their head coach signing, hiring, which is
Mike Brown.
Mike Brown. Now, if Mike Brown can come in and replicate what Tom Thibodeau did, then cool. But I don't know. Like, again, this is a guy who's a unanimous, coach of the year, so maybe he might surprise everybody.
Yeah.
But I don't know if Mike Brown is known as a coach for playing deep into his bench, because that was one of the reasons why Tom Thibodeau got fired, was because he didn't play deep into his bench. So if Mike Brown comes in, because this is the exact same roster, like you said, they didn't lose anybody yet.
Hmm.
They added two very solid players. We'll see if he comes in and continues the success that Tom Thibodeau left off. So if they get back into the Eastern Conference Finals or maybe the NBA Finals, with the East being wide open due to the Boston Celtics and the Indiana Pacers not being competitive due to their two-star players being out all next year, then maybe so. Then maybe this was a good offseason in terms of the hiring and firing of the coaches, but it's still yet to be determined to see what the Knicks do.
Yeah. I mean, Mike Brown
He's a
he
good coach.
won, I think he's a two-time coach of the year winner.
I believe, yeah, two-time. I don't know if it was one was with the
One with the
Cavs.
Kings.
Oh, unanimous with the Kings, and the other one was with the Cavs. I believe.
And I think he was a backup to Steve Kerr or something, like a assistant over there too, I think.
Yes, with the
So he's
Warriors.
a very experienced coach, and I think that's just something that the Knicks needed. You didn't want the Knicks to bring in like a first-time NBA coach type of guy. Like
No.
they were taught they were going after every like coach that is signed to a team right now. They even went after Don Staley in the NCAA. Uh,
Yeah, I heard that. I heard, but see, that goes to the Knicks. If you were going to fire Tom Thibodeau, that just goes to show you that they did not
they
have a
didn't have a
backup plan.
plan.
They
No.
just said, okay, let's just let him go, because that's fucking. I hate James Dolan with every fiber of my soul. He is the Knicks owner, if you guys don't know. He made the call. Leon Rose didn't want to fire him, but he said, "Oh no, just let him go." I was like, "What
Yeah.
the fuck?" So, but that just show you they didn't have a backup plan. It just goes to show you that you have incompetent people that are in charge of shit like that. I would have liked to see them go after Mike Malone, because I think he's probably arguably the best free agent coach out there, 2 years removed from winning a championship. But he'll get a job sooner or later.
Yeah. Um Oklahoma City Thunder signed Shea to a deal where in like 2029 he'll be making $1 million a game.
That's fucking crazy.
I think it was 285. They get AJ Mitchell and Big J Will back. No additions, and they only departure with Dylan Jones. I mean, still the best team in the league. Doesn't change much.
Yeah, I agree.
Orlando Magic, Mo Wagner on a 1-year, $5 million deal. Makes sense though, because he tore his ACL and was out, so that he's got to prove himself. They add Desmond Bain and Tyus Jones, and then they lose Cole Anthony, KCP, and Gary Harris. I mean, they got better for sure. Bringing in Tyus Jones helps no matter what team you are. Desmond Bain obviously is a boost to the offense. I wouldn't say that Desmond Bain makes them contenders, but it definitely makes them scary when you look at everything that's happening out east next year.
Yeah, I would agree. Especially starting off with Mo Wagner. I don't know if this is true, but I heard that he has a possible no trade clause
Yeah,
also on
because
his contract.
he was I don't know if it's the qualifying offer. I don't know, but those like him, Jackson Hayes. I'm sure there's another. Like they have no trade clauses for this year.
Okay, so that's good for him. Yeah, recover from that. I think he tore his ACL or Achilles, something like that. It was a
Yeah.
extreme injury, so hopefully he bounces back. And yeah, I mean they needed a shooter. They needed a like a third or fourth option, because let's be honest, Cole Anthony wasn't really that guy, even though the Magic wanted him to be. So that's why they got rid of him. Same thing, they brought in KCP, who just was very inconsistent during his short time with the Magic. So I
Mhm.
understand why they gave those up to get Desmond Bain, but I wouldn't get traded fucking 4 or 5 first round picks for
Yeah.
Desmond Bain. That's
Oh
just
yeah.
absurd. But he is locked up for the next 3-4 years on the contract. So like you mentioned, with the East being wide open, maybe this will be the Magic's time to have a deep playoff run next year.
Hmm.
But yeah, I mean I'm indifferent as well. I would say C minus for them. Okay off season, but their future is fucked as far as we know it.
Yeah, they might be a team that when second apron time comes around.
Yeah.
No, I mean we've talked about this, but the only reason I don't deem them contenders is because I need to really see Palo be a top 10 guy, and he was
Yeah.
kind of on that mark if he didn't get hurt last year. But like we need someone to be that because like as of right now, like obviously if you ask 99% of people, people would say Palo is their best player, but it's not really like a not he's not their best player every night, and that's kind of a thing that I would want to see.
Yeah, I agree. Yeah, you got to show some more consistency for sure.
Philadelphia re-signed Justin Edwards and Eric Gordon. They add Trent Watford, and then they lose Yabusele. I don't know what I like. I don't know anything about Joel Embiid. I don't know if he's going to be ready by the start of the season. I don't know if he's going to be back around Christmas time. Like I don't we don't know anything about Joel Embiid. There's been no rumors, no anything. Like so I have no clue what to think of this team because I don't know what's going on with Embiid.
Yeah, I agree. Like this whole trust the process, the Sixers' health depends on if Embiid is healthy or not. If he's not
Yeah,
healthy, it's just gonna be another repeat of last year.
yeah.
You're gonna not make the playoffs. The NBA is gonna give them a top 5 pick next year's draft. We don't know. And, the fact that they gave Embiid all that money, I believe how much is Embiid making, which is contract, it's fucking ridiculous if you ask me. But you give a guy 60, almost $70 million. Yeah, they signed him to a 4-year, $213 million guaranteed deal. Joel Embiid is going to be making wow, $55 million this year. You give a guy that much money for him to only play 10% of the season is outrageous. Same thing, Paul George. Obviously, he was injured as well, too. He's going to be making $54 million. The only person that you can rely upon who's worth that money, who you could arguably say is a little bit underpaid, is Tyrese Maxey. He plays every night. He's going to give you effort. He's a scoring machine, could give you 25, 30 points a night, same thing. But other than that, those two guys are taking up almost well over $100 million of your cap, and they're two of the most injury riddled players in NBA history, more so Embiid. So who knows what's going on with this team? I do like their third pick, DJ Edgecombe,
Oh
VJ
yeah,
Edgecombe. Oh my, even though with Summer
my
League,
favorite player
first,
in the draft.
oh man, even though with Summer League, the first game he went out and dropped like 28, 29 points. That goes to show you he's gonna be a stud. And Jerry McCain coming back from injury, so that's gonna be
Yeah,
some more depth at that 2 position. But it all
I like
depends
their
on
guard
Embiid.
rotation.
Yeah, their guard rotation is very, very deep, but it all depends on Embiid because you're paying him all that much money, and if he's not playing, well, your guys are useless.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I like their guard rotation between Maxey, McCain, Edgecombe, and again Quentin Grimes, another restricted guy that he doesn't have too much of a market right now, so he's not signed. Just because they're like these pure scorers between him and Cam Thomas, they don't do a lot other than score.
yeah,
So it's hard to pay those guys the 25 million a year they want when if they're not scoring, what are they doing? So
exactly.
but yeah, Edgecombe is probably my favorite player in the draft based on just how he plays and like his story and everything too. He reminds me of a like young like rookie year, second year Anthony Edwards. He's super athletic and everything, so I like that a lot.
Yeah, I agree. I agree with that 100%.
Phoenix Suns re-sign Colin Gillespie. They add Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green, Nigel Hayes Davis, who is an overseas player, and then Mark Williams. Departures: Kevin Durant, Tyus Jones, Cody Martin, Misic, and Plumlee. Um, we talked about this team. The only thing we really haven't talked about is Mark Williams too much. I am a huge Mark Williams believer, Mark Williams fan. If can play a full season, I fully believe he's like a 17 and 12 kind of guy. He's not perfect defensively. He doesn't always show the effort, but he can be. I'm a huge believer in Mark Williams, so I really hope it turns out and he can get back to being healthy. Again, he's had a lot of injury, like back and foot and knee problems, all injuries that you don't want to see from a 7'2" center.
Mhm.
Um, But I'm a huge Mark Williams fan, so I hope it works out for him and the Suns.
Yeah, I echo what you said about Mark Williams again. You know, he was a very, very sought out center, especially the Lakers tried to get him, but he failed his physical due to injury concerns and stuff that they
Yeah.
didn't like in his MRI and whatnot. But if he's able to stay healthy, I think he's going to be a big lob threat and defensive big man for Phoenix as well too. We talked about Malwatch from Duke. I think that was an insurance policy that the Phoenix Suns just had to draft because if he starts to break down his young NBA career, you could just throw Malwatch in and pretty much could do the exact same things and not a little bit more. Obviously, he's not as athletic as Mark Williams,
Hmm.
but he could get some bounce to him. The only thing about the Phoenix Suns, as we just mentioned, who's their point guard? They don't have a point guard.
Yeah.
Nobody's good. They don't have a true point guard who could set the offense going. They're just too deep at the two position. Like I said, Booker's their guy. He's not going anywhere. We'll see what they're gonna do with Bradley Beal. Rumors about possibly just buying him out or trading him to the team he wants to. Maybe the Miami Heat could pick him up. But you also have Dylan Brooks at that guard at that position. You got Royce O'Neal, Grayson Allen, Cody Martin.
Hmm.
There's a lot of and Jalen Green. You got that's a lot of shooting guards and little to no defense those guards play. And those guys are not going to set the offense. They're going to look for their own shots. Or those guys need to have the offense set for them. So if they're able to get maybe just a point guard for like a year rental, maybe Chris Paul again, come back to Phoenix, reunion, close to home. I mean, if they're able to get a point guard, this team will probably be a play-in team because Devin Booker is still good. He's still in his prime. If they keep Jalen Green, they could be, two guard offensive threat. Maybe Green could play the three, or maybe Booker could play the three. But on paper, despite them trade away Kevin Durant, they got a lot back from him, in my opinion.
Yeah. Yeah. It depends what they can do to get rid of Bradley Beal,
Yeah,
and to what the rest of their. This is a team where it's like it's hard to grade because we don't know what the rest of this offseason looks like for them.
exactly. I agree.
Portland Trail Blazers get re-signed Garrett Temple. They add Drew, and then they lose Anthony Simons and DeAndre Ayton. Um, I would say that they didn't get better, but I think they did things that they want. Like both of these players are players that were rumored to be traded at deadlines, past off seasons, everything like that. You've got Donovan Clingan, who can now, pretty much take over that starting center spot over there. Anthony Simons they got rid of, so like Scoot Henderson and Shane Sharp can start together. Drew Holiday, who again I would imagine gets flipped again at some point. You can probably get maybe another asset or two for him. Nothing like you got the first time, of course, from the Celtics, but um, I think they did things that they want. Not necessarily got better, but they did things that they needed and wanted to do.
Yeah, I echo that again. Their team is rebuilding. Those two guys that they let go
Hmm.
had maturity issues from what a lot of rumors and reports were coming out. So they got rid of those two guys. And
Hmm.
then yeah, like I said, Flip Holiday, maybe bring another young piece in, first round draft pick, and just continue to rebuild in Portland.
Yep. Sacramento doesn't re-sign anybody yet. Additions for Dennis Schroeder and Dario Saric, and departures of Jake LaRavia and Jonas Valanciunas. Dennis Schroeder's good when you don't have when you didn't have a point guard really. But the Kings are one of those teams that they're stuck. I think they're stuck. Like honestly remind me of the Bulls. Granted, because they have two of the Bulls players of Levine and DeRozan, but like Bulls had good names, good players, but they just couldn't figure it out, and they were kind of stuck with those players. Either because they make too much money, or B because there's not really a market for them. And granted, Demar, if you didn't think Demar had a market back with the Bulls, he definitely doesn't have a bigger one now. Same with Levine. Sabonis is such a unique player that he just doesn't fit with everybody because he's like a mini Jokic in a way, where like he a triple double guy, a good rebounder, but again, not your typical center. He just doesn't fit everywhere. He doesn't fit in a lot of places. So the Kings are one of those teams that's like they're kind of stuck in my eyes, and they are going to end up being kind of like the Bulls, where they have once they do move on from some of these top players, I don't think they're going to get the value back that they think they should.
Yeah, I totally echo that as well too. I mean, like you said, they're kind of like where the position the Grizzlies are now. Kudos to them for signing Dennis Schroeder because they didn't have anybody to handle the point. So you could probably say maybe they overpaid for him, but not really because Dennis Schroeder, especially last year with the Pistons and the Nets before he got traded to the Warriors, had very, very good moments. So I think maybe he'll probably give him a spark plug. But also, too, they're gonna have to re-sign Keegan Murray to a big deal coming up pretty soon, if not at the end of this year,
Yeah,
maybe next year. And so, Zach Levine, DeMar DeRozan, might as well just call them the Sacramento Bulls. But other than that,
right,
I
literally.
mean, yeah, but other than that, I mean, middle of the pack team, again, another play in. There's been rumors and reports about them possibly trying to trade away Malik Monk, but then they could possibly sign, Russell Westbrook's name has been out there in the free agent market still. Who knows? I think this team, they're just in the middle. They don't want to restart, but they also they don't have the cap space nor the players to be a true championship contending team. So, like I said, a good playing team. They'll be on TV here and there with DeRozan, Sabonis, Keegan Murray, and whatnot, Zach Levine. But other than that, yeah, it's just middle of the pack team. 6, 7 seed, maybe fighting for another play-in spot again next year.
San Antonio, no re-signings yet. They add Luke Cornett and they lose Mamu. Also probably losing Chris Paul too, but obviously that hasn't happened yet. Luke Cornett, good backup. The centers, the Spurs didn't really have backup centers, I guess, because they weren't really giving Mamu a chance. They traded Zach Collins, a part of the De'Aaron trade. And Luke Cornett is a solid backup. He can play with Wemby if Wemby's playing the four and stuff for a little bit. But the Spurs, they didn't really have to do anything in free agency. They got Dylan Harper, they got Carter Bryant in the draft. Probably the biggest winners of the draft, and I mean they're in a great spot. So I mean this doesn't really be just because they didn't do much. That doesn't mean much to me.
Yeah, I agree as well too. Like their free agency was the draft, and
Mhm.
if they end up losing Chris Paul, they have De'Aaron Fox who can mentor guys like Dylan
Right.
Harper, Devin Vassell, Kendall Johnson, Champagne and stuff like that. They're super Stefan Kessel too. They're
Hmm.
extremely deep at the point guard shooting guard position, and Darren Fox, who's what 26, 27 years old, is at the age where he can be a vet in the locker room. He's been in the league for what 7, 8 years or so. So I think they'll be fine. So yeah, I agree.
Toronto re-signed Jakob Pertl to a 4 year like $108 million extension. And then they add Mamu. The Raptors have so much money tied into like quickly Barnes, Ingram, Barrett, now Pertl. Another team that I think eventually might get stuck with the contracts that they've been giving to people, because quickly is making over 30 million. And I don't really think he has much of a market based on being hurt last year and not really playing much. Barnes obviously would, but he's super young still. Ingram, they just got, we haven't even seen Ingram in a Raptors jersey yet. Um, and Barrett, it is rumored that they're going to move on from Barrett, but the Raptors could be a eighth seed, seventh seed.
Yeah, I agree, especially too when they just fired Masai Ujiri or they parted ways, whatever the case may
Yeah.
be. I just don't know. Like I said, like you mentioned, they're just stuck a middle of the pack team, but they're not a middle of a seed team. They're not like a fifth, sixth seed in the Eastern Conference.
Hmm.
I just don't know. And the fact that they gave Brandon Ingram that money, they signed to extension without him playing a minute in a Raptors jersey, just like they just throwing
Yeah.
money at everybody. Maybe you and
Yeah.
me could go up to Toronto, go up to
Hey,
Canada, get our citizenship over there and just say, hey, we want to play for the Raptors. They'll give us a 5 year, $80 million deal.
hey, give me the call if that's happening.
Exactly.
Utah, no re-signings. Add Yusuf Nurkic. They waive Johnny Juzang, and then they trade Colin Sexton and Jordan Clarkson. Um, Steam got worse, but they're supposed to be bad, so not going to bring too much on them. Getting
Exactly.
Nurkic is kind of a yikes, but because he's kind of a tainted name in the NBA.
He likes to
But
fight a lot.
and I will say they got the best player in the draft at their point. They got Ace Bailey, even though he didn't want to go there. Um, People, sure, his first summer league game didn't go good, but who cares? It's the first summer league game out of a possibly 15-year NBA career. It doesn't write his whole career off. Ace Bailey is a super talent, so I really admire Danny Ainge for taking him, even though he didn't want to be there. Because hey, they wanted a top 3 pick, they didn't get it, and they're like, hey, if the third best guy's still going to be here, we're taking him, whether he wants us to or not.
And they have his bird rights for what, the next 3-4 years. So hey
So he's
man,
there,
enjoy Utah, enjoy the Mormons.
and you're not going to boss Danny Ainge around. So,
Exactly.
and then our last team, Washington Wizards, no re-signings, but they add C.J. McCollum, Dylan Jones, Kelly Olynyk, Cam Whitmore, excuse me, and then they lose Sadiq Bey, Anthony Gill, and Jordan Poole. This was a plus for the Wizards. I think Cam Whitmore just didn't really fit in Houston because he's not really bought into the Houston way over there. He's a very ball hog-ish player. He doesn't do a lot more than score. He can defend a little, but not to the level that Houston needed. They got him for like 2 second-round picks. He could be a good player, but again, another team that's supposed to be bad, and they will be bad. Maybe make some deals at the deadline, whether that's Middleton, Smart, CJ McCollum, whatever. And they got Trey Jones in the draft too, who I thought fell to them, and that was pretty nice for them because Trey Johnson is probably the best pure scorer in the draft this past year.
Yeah, I don't know what direction the Wizards are going towards. Like, they do have Alex Sarr and some couple of young pieces, but you also have a lot of veterans in that locker room, like Chris Middleton, McCollum. They just traded Olynyk, Marcus Smart. You know, I don't know what are they. Malcolm Brogdon too. Sorry, trying to remember one name. Are they trying to become like the Washington Vets or something? Like,
I don't know.
you
Well, I
have
think
all.
Brogdon's a free agent as of
Oh,
right
okay.
now.
Okay. So maybe he might not come back. But yeah, they have a lot of vets, but this team is not in a position to contend. They're again, you want to have like one or two veterans in there to teach the young guys how to be a pro, but they got at least 4 or 5 of them. So yeah, like you mentioned, they're gonna have to hopefully look to make some trades, maybe trade Smart to a contender, maybe reroute Middleton to a contender, or maybe reroute McCollum to the contender. But I think 2 out of those 4 guys that I mentioned have got to get traded. So yeah, we'll see what happens. But Washington, and they're just the purgatory of basketball. It's a shit show over there. So they're going to continue to be horrible for the next 3-4 years.
Yeah. All right. That again, that wrapped up our teams for the biggest winners and losers of free agency. Some people aren't a fan, I guess, because it doesn't have the big names of free agency. But not every year is going to. I think there's still a bunch of meaningful moves being made. It's just happening a little slower than some people would have wanted.
Yeah. I mean, hey, we better be on Sham's ass because he said, oh, this is going to be the most, star-studded blockbuster free agency of all time. Outside of, a couple of moves with like KD and like Lonzo Ball and other free agent signings and stuff
I
like
think
that.
it's been good though. I mean, not the best, of course, but
Yeah.
I think it's been. I mean, Desmond Bain, Drew Holiday, Porzingis, Durant, Michael Porter Jr. I mean,
Cam
this is
Johnson. Yeah.
right. We've seen a lot of great players being moved. So
We'll
um,
see. I wasn't that one year. Was it 2023 or was it 2022? It was like one of those years. It was like a crazy
well,
free
I think
agency.
2020 is the year where like Kyrie and KD went to Brooklyn.
That's 2019. Yeah.
Kemba went to Boston.
Yeah.
Paul George and Kawhi went to
To the Clippers.
Clippers. Everything like that.
Yeah.
So
2019 was, yeah. I think it was one of those years. 2022, 2023 was another big free agent off season. See, but we'll see.
all right.
Mhm. All right, guys. Thanks again for tuning in to another episode of Hoops All In. Don't forget to follow us on our social media at Hoops All In on Instagram, TikTok, and X. Subscribe to the Hoops All In YouTube channel. And also don't forget to subscribe to our personal YouTube channel at Keith HAI and Werls TV. Share this video with your friends, family, loved ones. Share it to everybody that you know who are basketball lovers. Again, subscribe, leave a comment down below, or dislike the video. Engage with us in any way, shape, or
Don't
form.
do
We
that.
appreciate it. Don't do that, but yeah, just engage. Leave your comments down below. What you guys think about our free agency video, the winners and losers of free agency? Let us know in the comments down below. We will catch you guys next time on another episode of Hoops All In. Take care.